Okay, welcome back to my channel, Made Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we're going to be doing my September TBR. For the last 2 months, August and July, I kind of went a little crazy with readathons. Like in the month of August, I went ahead and did 2 really big readathons. And while they did help me read a lot, I'm not necessarily in the mood this month to really push through and read a large selection of books. So what I want to do this month is kind of make a more chill TBR, in the sense that I'm going to be listing a lot of books here, but these are just ones that I can pick and choose from depending on the mood that I'm in. So I'm not going to have a super strict, I'm going to read this month, besides a few exceptions. I'm also going to focus a lot on sequels this month, because I've started a lot of series in the past couple months, and I haven't read the second book in any of those series because of all of the readathons that I've been doing. So what I'd like to do is give myself a bunch of options of sequels to choose from, and a couple of classics that I haven't been able to get to, but I really, really want to. I'm going to start with those exceptions that I talked about. So this month I have 2 buddy reads that I'm going to be doing. The first one is one that I'm actually hosting myself along with JJ over on The Bearded Bookworm. The 2 of us are hosting a read-along for Redwall. Now, I don't have my physical copy yet. As always in my life, perpetually, I am waiting for Book Depository shipping. But it is winging its way to me. I'll link the announcement video for this read-along down below. This read-along extends all through September, so it starts on September 1st, and technically it finishes on September 31st. But JJ and I are going to be doing a live discussion show on the 27th. We also have a discussion Discord for this read-along that I will have linked down in the description down below. And if you're interested in reading Redwall for the first time, or kind of going through the nostalgic feeling of reading it again as fall kicks off, we would love to have you join us. If you want to look for more details or my personal experience with Redwall or why we decided to do it, please watch the short announcement video down below. The second book is Pachinko. This one I don't have physically in my hands right now either, but I do believe that it is available in my library in Japan, which is a miracle. But this is another book that I'm going to be prioritizing this month because Deidre over on Shade Tree Reads, who you've heard me mention on my channel before, I'll link her down below. She created a kind of book club, and it's a very casual book club, but we have chosen to read Pachinko this month. I don't know too much about Pachinko, but I have had this on my TBR for a really long time. I believe it's a story about a girl who's Korean, and it's a story about when Japan took over Korea, and it's her family's experience in that time in history. I've heard really, really good reviews about this book, and I'm just really excited to finally pick it up and then have a group of people to discuss it with. There are 2 more books that aren't sequels that I really, really want to prioritize. The first one is The Sword of Kaigen. Now, my friends who are fantasy nerds like me on BookTube are probably, shaking their heads at me right now because I said I was going to prioritize it last month, and I did plan to. But then I picked up Jade City and a couple other large, chunky fantasy books that I really, really enjoyed, and they ended up taking up more time in the month than I expected. So this month, The Sword of Kaigen is my priority for fantasy. I plan to pick this up on September 1st and hopefully finish it really soon. For those of you who don't know, The Sword of Kaigen is an East Asian-inspired fantasy. I did start the first a couple pages of it, and it seems like it's very Japanese-influenced, but, that's just the first couple chapters, so I'm not 100% sure. So it's about the main characters that we follow, what happens to them in the war, what happens to them in the aftermath of this war. And I've heard that it's heartbreaking and it's gonna make me cry, and I'm ready. I'm ready for all the feels. And finally, for the third TBR in a row, is The Picture of Dorian Gray. Now, in the last two TBRs, I haven't lied when I said I really wanted to get to this, but everyone on BookTube knows you just run out of time sometimes. So this month, I want to make sure that that doesn't happen, and I'm really kind of in a classics mood. I'm ready to read some classics again. So I really am excited to pick this one up. Now we're getting into the sequel territory. I have a lot of these on this list, and while I really would like to get to them all, I don't think that's going to happen. So my goal is to get to at least 2 of the sequels on this list. The first one should be a surprise to no one on my channel if they've seen me on Twitter recently or my recent vlog, but I read Jade City, and that book wrecked me. I love it so much. It is one of my favorite fantasies that I've read in my recent memory. It's definitely going to be top of this year, and I'm just head over heels in love with the characters, the story, the setting, just everything. So of course, I have to own the books that I love. So I went and bought the Jade City and Jade War hardbacks from Book Depository. So as I mentioned earlier in this video, waiting for that shipment to come at some point at their leisure. Once Jade War gets here, I know I said I was going to prioritize the first 4 books, and I am, but I also might drop everything to read that book because I'm obsessed, and I need to get back to my characters. I need to get back to my babies. I need to see what's going to happen. So that is one book on the sequel list that I absolutely know I will be getting to. The question is just, how soon will it arrive on my doorstep? The next sequel on my list is Hanazakari no Kimi Tachie, or Hanakimi. If you've been on my channel, you've seen this before. I finished the first volume, finally, last month. You can go refer to my wrap-up. I think it might be up after this, actually. But I'll link the wrap-up down below if you'd like to see my thoughts on this, this story. This is a Japanese manga, and I read this for the first time when I was in high school in English, and I loved it. So I found it in a secondhand store here in Fukuoka for a really, really good deal. And I decided I wanted to read these again in Japanese to practice my Japanese reading comprehension. And I am loving this so much the second time through. It's just as cute and heartwarming and just fantastic as I remember. So this is a gender bender story about a girl who disguises herself as a boy and goes to an all-boys school in order to support the other main character, who is a star, I guess, in the high jump world. This is the epitome of shoujo manga. It has really unrealistic premises, like you just heard, and the romance is super soft, super slow-paced, but this is just a super, super high-quality version of that. And there's a lot of really, really humorous characters as well. The next sequel on this list is Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. So this is the second book in the Book of the Ancestor trilogy. I read Red Sister last month? Yes. I finished it in August, and it took me longer to read than I expected. I was told by pretty much everyone that knows me I would adore this series, and I did really like it. But it wasn't 5 stars for me, and it could have been because of the hype that I've seen around it. So while it wasn't 5 stars, I did really enjoy it, and I'm excited to get to the second book if I have time this month. The Book of the Ancestor is about a main character named Nona, and she is basically a street rat, a sea urchin. Sea urchin. A street urchin who is, through some circumstances, taken in by an abbess, and she joins an abbey. But what's different about this abbey is that it is a place where the nuns train to be assassins. So it's a book about a girl becoming an assassin nun. If you would like to hear my more in-depth thoughts on this series, I'll go ahead and link my wrap-up down below once I have it up on my channel. The third sequel in this list is Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This book isn't necessarily a sequel because it's a spin-off series from Pearson's Remnant Chronicles trilogy, which I read at the beginning of this year and was obsessed with, absolutely adored. And because I loved it so much, I picked this up. And I've had it now for a couple months, and for some reason I just haven't reached to pick it up. So if I feel the desire this month, I might be cracking this one open. The next book on the sequel list is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. Now, this book is the second one in the Brown sisters, I don't know if you can call it a trilogy, but this is a contemporary romance. Now, if you know me, I don't read contemporary, I don't read romance very often, but I did pick up the first in this series, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and loved it. It was super sweet, a quick read, and it just made my heart warm. So I am really interested to continue with this. Now, I do have this on hold for my library, but it still has like 4 or 5 weeks until I'm available to get it, so I may not be able to read this month, but if possible, if my hold comes in, I would be interested in picking this up. The last one in this sequel section is A Torch Against the Night. Now, this is the second book in the Ember in the Ashes trilogy? Quartet. I think it's a quartet. And I think the fourth book is coming out next year, maybe. I actually read An Ember in the Ashes as part of my Retroreads challenge that I do on my channel. I'll link it up above, as I always do in my TBRs. So what I do is I have this cup on my shelf that I have written, I think it's 15 titles of old school booktube favorites that were really well beloved and were kind of everywhere over booktube before I joined, before 2015. And every month I pull out a title and I read it to see what I think of booktube's kind of older tastes. I pulled An Ember in the Ashes out 2 months ago, and I was pleasantly surprised by that book. I don't know why, maybe because it's an older title, not sure, but I went into it thinking that it was going to be very tropey in the bad sense, you know, kind of roll your eyes every 2 pages, kind of bad sense of tropey, but oh boy was I wrong. The character work is fantastic, and I'm really intrigued by the world, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So, thanks to my Retro Reads series, I have found a new series that I want to continue, and A Torch Against the Night is the second one from that series. An Ember in the Ashes is about a girl named Laia, who is basically a slave in the world that she lives in. And through some circumstances, her brother gets taken by those in power, and she knows that he's definitely going to end up dying in prison if she doesn't do something. So she ends up turning into a spy and is placed in a very dangerous situation. The other main character is a boy whose name I cannot remember right now. I'll put it up on the screen. And he is part of the ruling class, but he doesn't necessarily want to be. His moral conscience kind of tugs at him. And the dynamics between those two characters and the growth that they have individually and together is just really, really well done. So I can't wait to see what happens in the second installment. While we're on the topic of the Retro Reads challenge, last month in August was the first month where I didn't read a title from this challenge. If you've seen any of my recent videos from August, you'll know that I got really, really sick in the beginning of August, to the point where there was just no way that I was making any content. And I did pull from the TBR cup with the intention of picking up this title, but I didn't catch it on camera. And then when about half my month was taken away from me for content, I decided that I would put off this title until this month. So my title this month for the Retro Reads challenge is going to be Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I know that this book is really hated or really loved. Like at one point it was really loved, and then the tide turned and it became almost universally hated for the tropiness of it. But that kind of made me curious to see what I would think of it if I read it now. Also, at this point, it's basically like a running joke on my channel, but the very first book that I picked for this challenge back in April was The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And I just have some kind of mental block with this book. I don't know. I made it 50% through, and I keep getting it out from my library, and then it returns before I finish it. And I do want to finish this book. I'm not hating it, but for some reason, my brain is just not into reading that book right now, or for the last couple months. So I think it's just going to be one of those, when I finish it type of things, and then we can have like a little party on my channel when I finally do. Maybe I'll do like a full review for it, like a single review video to kind of celebrate it and say my final thoughts. But that is a Retroreads book that still hasn't been completed, that I haven't forgotten about. It's just not a priority at the moment. These last 3 books are definitely just if some of the sequels aren't fitting my mood and I want something else to pick up, these are the ones that I'm thinking I'll lean towards this month. I've mentioned on my channel very casually that I want to start picking up some more sci-fi. I'm still very new to the genre, but there were a couple books on my wish list that were sci-fi. And I just received 2 of those books in the mail with no note, but I'm pretty sure who sent it. And that is Rebecca from over on Rebecca Reads. Thank you so much, love, for sending these to me. They made my day. I was actually having a not so good day, and then I came home and there were 2 books waiting for me, which is just such a rare occurrence that just thank you. I'm so touched. And both of the books that she sent me are ones that I'm really, really excited about. So if I can, or if like I said, if some of these sequels aren't working for me, I want to pick up one of these 2. And the first one of those is The Children of Time. So first off, I mean, can we look at how pretty this paperback is? You can see that I'm usually a hardback person, but something about this paperback, I love it, and I'm so happy to have it physically. This book is set in the future where humans have left Earth, I believe. And there's a group of humans who come back to Earth for some reason. And when they arrive, there are giant, intelligent spiders waiting for them. Now, I don't like spiders. They got too many legs. No. But for some reason, when I first heard about this, I think it was Emily Fox that I heard mention this, I was like, I need to pick that up. I need it. So I don't know why, but I want to read about the thing that scares me, apparently. So yeah, I have Children of Time, and maybe this month I'll be picking it up. The second book that Rebecca so kindly sent me is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Just forgot the author. Now this one I've kind of heard of here and there, but it's really Katie from Brightness Katie Reads who got me hyped to finally pick this up. This is, as far as I'm aware, like a space opera, but like a feel-good one. It's supposed to make you happy and kind of restore your faith in humanity. And honestly, I think everyone could use those kinds of reads recently. So I'm really happy to have this physically. I can't stop looking at it because, again, something about this paperback, gorgeous. It's also smaller than most books that I read, so I think that this would be a quicker read for me if I do decide to pick it up this month. The second to last book is The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. Now, I have a couple of classics from the last time I went to America that I brought back with me in my suitcase, and this is one of them. So my father's actually a big reader as well, but he really enjoys classics, and this is one that he has told me I'm gonna love multiple times, and he said it'll definitely make me laugh. So this is a play that kind of makes fun of high-class society back in Victorian times, I believe, is the time frame for this. And it's supposed to be just one gigantic joke. This is something that I've wanted to pick up for genuinely years. So if I have the time, you know, it's a play, so it might be a bit easier for me to read, a bit quicker. But if I have the time, I might pick this up this month. And finally, the last book in this if I have time, if nothing else is working for me section of the TBR is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. Now this is 100% fueled by the Illumicrate, gorgeous Illumicrate editions that were just released. If you know me, if I'm gonna spend my money on books, it's gonna be special editions and collector's editions. I don't mind paying out cash for those. And Illumicrate just released a set of Uprooted and Spinning Silver with the beautiful UK covers. And I've read neither of those books, right? So I don't want to spend the money without knowing that I love the book. So I wanted to, if there's time, pick up Uprooted, which has been on my TBR or on my radar for a long time, and see if I enjoy it. If I do enjoy it, I may go for those nice editions. If I don't, well, nothing, no money lost. My understanding of Uprooted is it's a fairy tale retelling where there's a wizard who lives outside of a village, and then every year, maybe, the wizard turns into a dragon and takes some fair maiden from the town. And I believe it's a love story between the girl that he takes and the wizard, but I don't know much more than that. I think it's also at my library here, so fingers crossed. That concludes my September TBR. I know there were a lot of books listed here, but I do plan, like I said, to take this much more casually, just kind of treat it as a mood reading month. But these are just all of the options that I'm giving myself. Leave a comment down below if you've read any of these books. What are your opinions? Which ones do you think I should prioritize from this list? I'd love to chat with you down below. But for now, I'm gonna head out. Ja ne!